Access 2016, Module 4, Part 2. In this segment, we're going to be looking at creating a form with a subform using the form wizard. So let's get a visual of what that's going to look like. So we're going to have a form that in the top portion of the form, it will have owner information. Then there will be what is called a subform, and it's going to be another window inside our form that will contain the pet information for that owner. So let's go ahead and get back into our Riverview database. And again, you do not need to have all the queries that we created in Module 3, but you do need to have all 4 tables as well as the relationships between those 4 tables need to be established. All right, let's go ahead and go to our Create tab, and we're going to choose a Form Wizard again. So again, the first step is to select the table that we want to start with. Now what you want to do is you want to select the table with your primary data. If you go back to our visual, the primary data is the outside of the form, not the subform. So the owner information is primary. We want to select the owner information first. So we're going to choose the table owner. So you have to up arrow to get to that. And we're going to choose the following fields. You want to make sure you choose them in the same order as they're listed in the assignment. So we'll start out with the owner ID. Then we will add the first name and the last name, the phone, and then we're going to skip down and add the email. Now, the next thing we have to do is select the data for the subform. That data is in our animal table. So we're going to change tables. Again, we have to scroll up and choose Table Animal. On Table Animal, we're going to go ahead and insert all of our fields. But one thing you should see is that we now have owner ID listed once in the primary information and then again with each animal. So it would not make sense to have the owner ID listed multiple times in our sub window next to each animal. It would make more sense to have them listed up in the top or primary section one time. So you're going to click on that second owner ID, which is from the animal table, and remove it. After we've done that, we're going to click Next. Now on this window, it wants to know which is primary. If you entered them in the proper order, it will default the way you wanted it. If you didn't, then you would have to change these options. It's also important to make sure you click this button that says you are creating a form with a subform. We are not trying to link multiple forms. We're going to do a form with a subform. Choose Next. And now we're choosing the layout for the subform. We have two options. You can have tabular or datasheet. We're going to use datasheet and then choose Next. Now we have two boxes that we have to name. The main form we want to call owner animals. So we're going to leave owner there and type animals. Now the animal subform, we want it to be called animal subform, but we're going to remove that space between them. Now next is no longer an option, so we will choose Finish. And you can see that it created our form with a subform. So we are currently in form view. The reason I can tell that is because the actual data is highlighted, meaning I could change this if I wanted to. Notice the pencil until you tab through and move to the next record. The pencil does not disappear. The change is not saved. So you want to make sure you get the pencil to go away if you make any changes. Form view is the view you must be in to change the data. The other views that we've looked at in the past are Layout view, and Design view. Now I want to point out one thing. When you look at this in Layout view, you'll notice that each animal is listed in a row. But when you look at this in Design view, it appears totally different in the sub window. So if you open up and you go to Design view, don't let that concern you that this looks different than you were expecting it to. You want to make sure you go back and look in either Layout or Form view and see if it looks the way you expected to there. So we're going to start out modifying in Layout view. I can tell I'm in Layout view because the object is highlighted, and I also have Layout Tools tabs to allow me to make changes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my title, Owner Animals, and I'm going to add a space in between those words. Now you'll notice as you navigate, I've got scrolling arrows down here. These are going to take me to the next record of the owners. But you also have navigation arrows here, so if an owner had multiple animals, you could scroll between the animals here. You can add new records for the animals, and you can add new records for the owners. But I would be careful using a form like this to add new records because, for example, many of the owner fields are not visible, so we would not be entering that information. Okay, now we're going to change the actual subform. So let's click on the subform. You'll notice it highlights the whole square or subform. This bottom left box that has the cross with arrows in it allows me to click on that and drag the entire box. Notice I'm moving the entire box. The other thing that I can do, and that I would want to do in this case, is I would want to take this side of the box and drag it out to enlarge it. I'd want to keep going until I can tell that all of my fields are visible. You might want to then enlarge some of the fields depending on the information in them so that you could ensure that all of the text in the fields is visible. And once you had these fields as large as you wanted them, then you would want to take this side of the box back in and shrink it down so that it would match and it would close that box off and make it look like more like a finished product. So to move this sidebar or to enlarge or shrink the box, you need to hover over the side. You'll see the arrows moving both directions, and that will allow you to slide that bar back and forth. We could also do some of the other items that we had done on our previous form. So if I go to the design, I could change a theme. So if I wanted to choose the slice theme, but only for this object, I would do a right click and apply the theme to this object only. I could change the font of my title by clicking on the title and then going to the format. Maybe I want to make this the darkest black that says lighter 5%. And you can see it changed the color of the font. I could also add a picture or a logo by choosing the logo button in the header and footer group. Choose my animal's picture. Then remember, with a form, when you add a logo, you need to right-click on the logo, go down to Layout, and remove the layout. That will remove the dotted lines and allow you to move the picture independently of the other items in your header. I can drag it larger. Notice if I make it bigger than the header box, it simply enlarges the header box. And the other thing that we did in the last class was we added a label. It's best to do that in Design View. So I'm going to switch to Design View. And I want to be in, oh, it wants me to save. So I'm going to save both forms, and then it'll move into Design View. In the Design tab, I'm going to make sure I choose the button that says Label. When I click on that, I'm going to drag out the shape of a label. I'm going to put this one in the header. If they wanted it in the footer, we could simply put it down here. We're going to put it in the header, and I'm going to type prepared by, and then put your name. And you're going to click away from that label. When you click back on it and it is highlighted, then you can go to the format. We could change the font. Maybe we want to make it bigger. Maybe we're going to make it bold. And we're going to choose this burnt red color. If I wanted to enlarge my box so that it would only take up one line, I need to hover over one of these side buttons so that I get the arrows going back and forth. Remember, the cross with the arrows would have moved it. I want to enlarge it. So I need the cross with the arrow moves. The line with the two arrows allows me to move the side. Click somewhere else when I have finished. And we're going to go back to our Home tab and select Form View so that we can see our final changes. Now, one thing that I would probably do is, if you look at this right now, part of the word Animal ID is getting cut off by our filter arrow. So I would go back into the Layout view, click on my box, and enlarge this a little bit. Then I would enlarge the Animal ID field, and then shrink back my box size so that it closes the box in and it looks finished. Okay, so again, we're going to save our changes. And we're going to go back to Form View. So again, if we wanted to scroll through, let's scroll to record 25 in the main form. So I'm going to go to the end since there's 26, and I'm going to scroll back one to get to 25. You can see here that now there are 2 records, so they have 2 dogs. You could also, if you knew the record number you were looking for, you could type it in this record box, hit enter, and it will take you to that particular record. And as you can see, we have 6 records within the animal sub window or sub form. We go ahead and close our sub form. And that concludes this segment of our videos.